Yeah, I'm good.
Hey, Scott and I are starting a little late. He's here now, though, and he's had he just made himself too valuable. He's at work now.
Oh my.
He's not at work and home.
Well, I tell you. Yeah, sometimes at work when you get a promotion, you should really think about it. I mean, I
Really?
love my job. I love working with my employees, and I love everything. But holy cow, I got one of my departments that I got that I was put under me was like 2 months behind when I got him, and so immediately it's like, well, why are you behind? And I'm like, I've been their boss for 2 days, and I don't mean like, I mean like management is asking me why are you behind? It's like, wait a minute, come on, man, you know. But you know, there's no there's no compassion.
Oh man, it's a
Yeah, it's the office politics is dog eat dog, Ellis. Uh,
office politics is the worst. I fail big time every instance I've ever bounced up against office politics. I blame that on a little bit of my continuing pathology on just not doing that well socially.
well,
It is office politics is the worst in
one of
terms of like human interactivity.
I
But
think
it's funny to see a guy like Scott Adams act like it's the funniest thing on earth. Instead of being traumatized by it, he decided he wanted to comment on it and dissect it. And
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Well, and here's the thing. And I mean, I was told this. They promoted me because they said we need people that have grit. They literally use the word grit, Ellis.
mm-hmm.
And that's what it takes is somebody that is like, we're gonna get this done no matter what. And you just have to I mean I mean it's you just have to go, yeah, we're gonna get it done. I don't care, and you have to look at all these people getting mad at you because they don't get their stuff, and take it as like a rite of passage. This is what you have to do. You just go through this scenario where they're like, well, we're unhappy because you didn't get this done on time, or you didn't do it to our satisfaction or whatever, and just go, okay, we're gonna get through. We're gonna. Why aren't you done with this? We're gonna get this done, and and it's like, okay. I mean, part of it is just too dumb to just go, okay, I quit. I can't take this anymore. You know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and boy, I tell you what, I've had jobs where I lasted about a couple of days, and those jobs that I quit real quickly and spontaneously
Yeah.
were always some of the most satisfying moments in
When you
life. I tell you, just saying this is nonsense, and just walking out on that.
this job and shove it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
You
Well, I
can
mean,
you can keep
I,
it.
I've been at my job for over 30 years, and uh, you know, one one embarrassing thing to admit about it is I kind of like telling people what to do. I'll be honest. You know.
Well, I've always gravitated toward that myself, but never got in any sort
That
of position where I actually was in charge of people. I was, that early job out of college doing
yeah.
art for the Yellow Pages.
Oh
I,
yeah.
I kind of like got to be over a couple of guys, but it was fruitless. It was, they did things their way.
Well, as somebody that's over a bunch of them, over artists is difficult. Like today, one of them was asking one of the sculptors asking another one if they could do something for him tomorrow. And I go, why are you asking? That needs to be done. This is not a democracy. We don't get to vote on where it gets done. It's just like the other day I told a guy, last Friday, this guy that's behind, I said, can you stay late? And he goes, well, I have my 40. And I go, yeah, and you can stay another hour if you want. Well, I don't want to get in trouble. And I go, no, you won't get in trouble. I am your boss. I'm telling you, you can. And then, of course, then he's like, well, I don't really want to stay late. Okay.
You got down to the bottom of it. He didn't want to stay late.
Yeah, he was like, well, I don't want to get in trouble. And I'm like, you're not getting in trouble. Well, I feel like, look, I don't care what you feel like. I am telling you, you're not going to get in trouble. Then, and I talked to my boss, and my boss was like, no, you can authorize overtime. He said, you need to be smart about it, but you can authorize overtime. Certainly in a deal like this where I'm expecting something from you, you can authorize overtime. And I'm like, cool. Well, and my theory is, and I don't want to go into details on, my theory is they're going to give me a lot more responsibility before too long. I've heard through the grapevine, and more challenging stuff to do too. So we'll see. I mean, they may kill me before it's over with. I mean, like, I'll die of a heart attack at work or something. But I went to the doctor last Friday. I don't know if I mentioned that I had my annual physical last Friday. I don't know if I talked about last Thursday. And he gave me a clean bill of health. He said, man, you're doing good. Everything sounded, now I haven't got all my lab back, but he said everything sounded good. And everything was good. My blood pressure was down from last time. My weight was down from last time. So the stress is affecting me negatively because all this promotions has happened since my last thing. So I feel good about that because really when I went to the doctor last week, I felt like a wreck from work last week from the stress, and I was just like, oh, told my wife I left. They're going to tell me that I'm falling apart, And he was like, oh no, you're good. I'm like, okay, cool. So apparently the stress isn't getting to me, which is good.
So you did some Kirby copying recently that I really liked, and I think what I liked about it was you were capturing several. Yeah, what you got there? Stunt
man. So I went to OFCON last week, and in one of the booths, I was looking through magazines. I found this. It's Simon and Kirby Super Acrobat Stuntman. 56 pages of action. Now, I thought I already had this in a trade. I was mistaken because of what I have is that Fighting American trade, which is awesome, by the way. But I thought, you know what? This will lay flat and I can draw from it. Well, I didn't. I don't think this has ever been collected in a trade because there's not that much of it. This is, I think, like about 80% of all. There were only 4 or 5 Stuntman issues. And this,
Kirby back then was rendering a lot different than the way we think of Kirby. He wasn't he hadn't figured out how to leave a lot of stuff out back then.
Well,
but it's cool though. It's still Kirby.
Oh, I read somewhere, and I don't know where, and they were talking about back then when the Simon and Kirby studio was cooking along. They said the kids like a lot of hay. That's the word they used, hay, like straw.
Okay, yeah, that would explain the rendering efforts. Yeah.
So it's like this. I don't know if you can see this. It's like this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All that feathering and hatching. And and it's everywhere in this. And when I was a kid and I'd see this stuff, it would drive me crazy because it was so loose compared to I was used to Terry Austin inking over John Byrne, and so I'd see this and I'd be like, oh man, look how loose it is. Of course now I think it's kind of cool, but that's not why I like this stuff. But I do like the rendering. Rendering is something that's kind of growing on me. The idea of rendering textures and some of that stuff. And I'm trying to be more and more like that in my work. But anyway, so I bought this. This was $6. Dude, if you buy this online, it's like 40. And it's like a little, I mean, that's not even a slick cover. It was put out by Greg Theakson's Pure Imagination. I think that I read this was in the 90s. Doesn't have a date on it, but I think they did it in the 90s, maybe late, 80, it says 87. But it's just, I got it, and I thought I already had it. And of course, now that I don't have it, I'm thrilled to have it. Now I do have I have a big Simon and Kirby book called The Art of Simon and Kirby, or something like that. The Simon and Kirby, maybe it's Best of Simon and Kirby, that I got. It was put out by Titan Books maybe 5 years ago, and I got it cheap, like $32, and it goes for big. It's still in print, but apparently it's like $100 now for whatever reason, and it's a big, oversized book. And then I also have that book that I think you've checked out of the library called The Art of Simon and Kirby, which is basically reproducing their black and white art. It's like an artist edition of Simon and Kirby, but it's all kinds of stuff. But
yeah, I think I've got that one.
Do you have that? I wondered if you had that.
I think I do.
I got that real cheap at Half Price Books. And I waffled on getting it, but finally I was like, okay, I'll get it, because this isn't a style that I want to copy, but man, I've been drawing from this.
Oh, yeah. As far as poses, though, it is great to draw from to get a little more pep into your poses. You bet.
Well, yeah, I mean, stuff like this, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a great, thing to copy, and so that's kind of what I've been doing lately. In my sketchbook here, or my whatever, my oversized sketchbook. Oh, you know what? I used where'd it go? I used that big sketchbook for some of this. That one I showed you. Hang on, let me grab this. I used this beast, and
yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. What did I copy in here? Oh no, I didn't. I copied some John Byrne in here. Anyway, I've been copying copied some John Byrne. My whole focus this last week or so has been copying comic artists, specifically trying to copy I've been copying some John Byrne stuff, trying to capture some rendering, and I've been copying this Kirby stuff, or Simon and Kirby stuff, trying to get some of the life and just get myself used to. They drew these people with their bodies all twisted up, and it looks cool. And it's like, I need more of that in my work. That's an area that I feel my work is really lacking, and so I'm working on that. I'm trying to add some of that. Anyway, what were you gonna say?
Not much of anything. I think that Kirby is got that energy, like you say, and it's always like when you analyze it, there's going to be a deep foreshortening you don't ordinarily take on. There's going to be there's going to be crops that you wouldn't think of doing, or you wouldn't be comfortable with doing it right off the bat in your layouts. And that process that Kirby went through there, I think you may have said that's what you heard, or I think I may have heard it myself. It's like Kirby started in the top upper left and went down to the right in terms of solving things. And that would keep it pretty spontaneous. And of course, he was also, I was reading and the introductions to Wit's End. I got all those on the Internet Archive. I've got 1 through 8, and then I got number 12 for just a couple of pieces of art. But past 8, they aren't all that good. Wally Wood gave up on it sometime beforehand, and then it became Pearson. But from number 8 on, they took a big hiatus, and then the ones that they came back and did were just weren't the same Wit's End. When Wit's End started, of course, I was going to tell you what. Kirby was mentioned in the introduction to the first Wit's End in terms of the roster that might be appearing in Wits End. And he says, we
really?
can't, because as he said, the whole system would collapse if we had Kirby work on anything for this thing, because he just absolutely can't be pulled away to do anything. So everybody was aware that Kirby was, nose to the grindstone. There's no way you get what he was doing accomplished without just doing nothing but. And, that's, I don't know if Kirby, certainly he was ready to explode if things didn't go his way, I guess, but I guess he was a happy man working like that.
Yeah, I maybe. Yeah, it's tough to say. That's kind of the question. I mean, I'll be honest with you, since you say that, I go through periods where I go, I'm kind of glad I never broke into comics. Not like I wanted to, at least.
Oh, everybody that's in comics ultimately decides, man, this is about the most labor intensive thing I could have gotten into. Yeah.
Well,
being an animator in Korea, I think.
Yeah, where they be North Korea, not South Korea, North Korea.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like I started this saying, hey, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Basically, sometimes you get in these positions, you think you want something, then you get it. You're like, God, I didn't know what I was in for.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, at least like at my work, I have job security. I have a 401k. I have health insurance. I have vacation. There's things that in comics it's just like work your rear. And I don't know. I mean, the amount of money that they make is minuscule. And then you figure so like I heard I was reading a thing and they were saying, I mean, this was people in the industry saying, starting page rate, like at Marvel, like if Marvel called me up and said, hey, Scott, we want you to draw whatever for us. Starting page rate is, I think I heard it's around 150 or 160 bucks. And I've done the math, and if you do the math, it's like $40,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And which, depending on I don't know what some of these people watch and do or whatever. I don't think that's very much. I mean, okay. We'll just leave it at that in terms, but that doesn't seem like a lot of money considering the pressure you're under.
Mm-hmm.
And then you figure they don't pay employment tax, so your taxes are outrageous. You got to pay
it's got almost zero benefits, yeah.
And so it's like, God, and then there's no benefits, no health insurance. Of course, now you can get health insurance through Obamacare or whatever. That's fine. I mean. But if you're inclined, but it's like there's no. I mean, like I said, man, I'm kind of glad I never broke into comics, because here's the thing. My goal. In fact, it's funny that at OFCON I was talking to some people, and I said, my goal really is at this point is to work on my comic long enough and to get it to do well enough that. At the point that I actually retire, which may be 10 or 15 years, I have enough clout or enough recognition or whatever to where I can work on comics that would be a retirement job, maybe early retirement if that pans out or whatever, but it maybe not for like a Marvel or DC thing, but to me that's certainly in a position I'm in. It's like, man, that's what I want. It's like, well, draw comics as a retirement job when you don't have to, when you got all your, everything settled, and it's just basically staying busy and enjoy the work when you're not having to put food on the table with it, know?
Oh yeah, putting food on the table. I think once somebody really satisfies that in a big way with something like their art, that becomes how they do art. I get the impression that Doug has completely gone over to this non-fungible token thing. And I think it must be the greatest thing on earth to have discovered something like that that allows him to just be drawing like JPEG after JPEG of character designs that are just variations on his character Clayman, and have each
Oh
one of
yeah.
them be worth $500. I saw something the other day in the oh, what do you call it when you get on their interaction thing? It's one of the mini. Let me see what that's called.
Well, I think John Byrne may be in the same boat with his imaginary X-Men book he's done, or Else Wins, or whatever he calls it. You know, the idea that he's drawing the stuff he wants to draw.
Yeah,
He has no editor, and he's selling those pages. I asked him about it. He draws a page a day, and then he stops. And he said, usually it takes me, 3 or 4 hours. He said, I'll start about 8, and I'll knock off about noon, and I got a page done, and
I'm doing the.
and he's selling them for a couple $1,000.
I'm doing the thumbnail. Yeah, that's and that's Discord is what I was thinking of. So anyway, Doug is like apparently making them on average about $500, and I guess it can go up from there maybe sometimes, or maybe a little lower. But on each and every one of these little JPEGs, that they turn into these blockchain bits of currency. It's not funny money. It's I guess backed by Ethereum or whatever, and I guess you can cash out and turn it into real cash if you want to. And but Doug's big plan apparently is to have 10,000 of these tokens. And then at that point, when you multiply 10,000 times 500, that turns into $5 million. That is pretty good payday, and you would leave comics behind very quickly for a $5 million payday.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Absolutely.
Now, I may be misinterpreting something there. Maybe there is no way that gets that high, but I wouldn't be surprised, because it's brand new territory, that he is actually dealing with something like that could turn into millions.
That's kind of crazy.
It's kind of cool. I'm working on, and here I am. I'm working on Inktober's with, I've decided to turn it into Battober again. And I'm going to have every one of them. I've got a little list here. And every one of them is Batman versus a Marvel character. In other words, Batman versus Punisher, Batman versus Wolverine, etc. Batman versus Namor. I've got one here where Dr. Doom likes Batman's cape. So basically they swap capes, but Batman's kind of captive during this process.
Will you sell these online, Ellis?
What's that?
Will you sell these when you're done?
I may turn them into non-fungible tokens. I may be a millionaire the next time we speak. No, I'm kidding.
That'd be good.
Will I sell them online? I think I sold most of my last time I did Inktober's that were Batman. I think I sold every one of them on Mike's auctions. And that's the other thing. Mike, I think, has quit the auctions, because right now the ultimate auction is that non-fungible token thing. I may be wrong about that too. I don't know if he's still auctioning or not.
Michelle has listed some stuff on eBay. Well, and don't get me wrong, it's old clothing, but she was astonished that people would buy old jeans.
Oh,
so
yeah.
She's been messing. Yeah, so she's been and I've probably hadn't thrown away a pair of Levi's in 20 years, knowing that in South Korea they're valuable, even no matter what shape they're in. But anyway, so she's been doing that, and I told her, well, if you get an eBay store going, I may sell some stuff. But the idea of putting art on there might be kind of interesting.
Oh, eBay art! I've always had some kind of disappointments with eBay art. That's another thing that's not worth your
There's so
compared
much.
to, if you can find something else that pays you better, because that was the deal. We were using Mike's fan base to sell that art on auctions,
Yeah.
and that's much more instant gratification than eBay. eBay is usually it just sits there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I could see that for sure.
But I imagine I hit eBay every now and then with a search and find stuff. Oh, you know what I
Yeah.
did yesterday? Besides mowing the lawn, I learned to tie two knots that this guy that was actually, I was watching his YouTube to watch him make some sawhorses because that seemed pretty, just shows you the fascinating things I do all day, the low stress stuff I do all day. Yeah, no, that's when you really envy me, when you're under a lot of stress and you realize Ellis is under absolutely
My,
no stress right now.
my boss's office, and he's telling me, you got to make this happen. And I'm thinking, I have no control over this whatsoever. And next time that happens, I'll think about you at home watching YouTube videos about making sawhorses.
Making sawhorses. So anyway, this guy, the basics of this sawhorse was you lash it at the bottom to pull it in an X fashion on the top member, and he tossed a bow line first, and then he did a trucker's hitch. And I said, and then the guy also made an editorial comment. It says, "This is a very useful couple of knots." And then he did it over again a couple times, saying, "You probably want to learn these knots." And here he was doing carpentry, but it's like, let's stop and learn some knots. And I said to myself, I want to learn those two knots. And he's right. There's nothing more fundamental. Guy ought to know. I can always tie a square knot. I can make a short rope into a longer rope by attaching a couple of pieces together. But so I've always had that one in my bag. What else can I tie? But anyway, that those couple that even inspired me to buy about $6 worth of paracord. I may learn a couple more knots. I'll go for my
That's $6 100 feet.
What's
right?
that?
$6 a paracord's about 600 feet, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the deal. It's cheap. I couldn't get over how cheap that paracord is. I wonder why it's so cheap.
When I had a truck, do what?
I wonder why paracord is so cheap. Even if it is pure profit, it seems like you could get more for it than that.
When I had a truck, which I may have a truck again soon, but that's another story.
Oh, what's that story? That sounds interesting.
I may be buying my father's old truck from my mom.
Interesting. Is it a big old truck, or is it dinky like mine?
It's dinky like yours.
Oh, good. Yeah, it'll be better for gas mileage.
It's a 2014 Nissan Frontier.
Oh yeah.
There's some factors about whether I'm gonna buy it or not. One of my nephews has been driving it for quite a while, like almost a year, probably close to a year. So we'll have to see what he's done to it in the meantime. But I don't know. I'd kind of like to have Dad's old truck, to be honest with you. And by my nephew having it, I have not had access to it, and so it's given me some grief about stuff I need to get in a truck that I hadn't had in my truck I could borrow from Dad. But when I had a truck, I used to have a Isuzu pickup truck, and when I had that truck, I always kept a length of, I think it was like, I don't know if it was nylon, but there was a length of rope, probably about as big as your thumb, that my Nissan had this kind of circle hook on each corner of the bed. And so I kind of, when I would keep that cord back there, and I crisscrossed it and went back to itself. And it was long enough, if I untied it, unlooped it, I could wrap it around something if I had to carry it. but I just kept it back there. And if I had something kind of big that was like heavy, but I didn't want to tie it down, I just throw it under that rope. You know.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I've got a big bungee cord in the back that is ready to go on those hoops,
I don't
just
like
like you say, loops.
I don't like bungee cords because I drove a work truck one time over a bungee cord, and that if you drive over the metal end of a bungee cord, that hook will flat your tire in about 10 feet.
Mm.
It puts a hole in there, and it'll pull out. It won't stick in it like a nail or a screw would, and it pulls out, and that hole is big enough. You will lose air so fast.
Just like a
So
what do they call that
yeah,
strip?
it's like
That strip that they throw out in front of you when you're
not like one of those.
yeah.
I mean, it's but so so anytime I see a bungee cord like on the highway, I always cringe because I know what they'll do to your tire. You know, so I don't use bungee cords for anything. Not like that.
You just like having nails in the back of the bed of
Yeah,
your truck.
exactly. Yeah, it's like why would I carry a box of nails in my truck? I won't. So
Box of loose nails or open pack of nails. Yeah.
so I saw the new James
You
Bond
did?
last night. A group of us. Yep, a group of us went to the Warren and watched it.
How was it?
I didn't care for it, Ellis.
You know what? Daniel Craig's that first impression on Casino Royale, that was fine, almost. But then they had one that was a complete dud, and Stop Sticks. Yeah. So they call them something like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's like a bungee cord if you run over it.
But the action, I assume the action was great. I mean, they usually don't
Well,
short you on that.
Okay, I'm not going to give any way spoilers, but I will say this: I don't like mopey James Bond, and he was very mopey.
Yeah, don't need that.
To me, it was very uncharacteristic of James Bond. I mean, of course, I've read the books, so people's mileage may vary because Daniel Craig has always been kind of mopey.
Yeah,
James Bond compared to either the novels or something else, but this was over the top mopey. I mean, there was action, but the action didn't make a lot of sense to me. It was the whole thing seemed very uncharacteristic of James Bond, and I thought the bad guy's plot was kind of ridiculous. And that's all I'm gonna say.
How high were the stakes in terms of like what he was doing? Was he saving the world, or was he just
eradicate the entire planet, basically?
Oh, really? So he did have to save the world. Okay.
He definitely saved the world.
Speaking about saving the world in movies that are just fantastic, I saw two of them recently. One of them was my first time rewatching Doctor Strange. Man, that is so much better than because I liked it okay the first time, but it's really improves with the second viewing. And
oh yeah, I like
but what's funny is I think I have not started to watch that probably a dozen different times. When I looked at the time, because I bought it on Amazon, and it's so dumb. I looked at the time and it said 3 hours and 30 minutes. Man, no wonder that wasn't a monster blockbuster. It's not that long. It's perfect. It's an hour and 45 minutes long, but I bought the extra features with this Amazon buy. And so I'm reading that 3 hours and 35 minutes, not realizing that's not anything like that. It's more like the perfect length movie.
So the movie started at 7. That was the time. We were there early. We saw it at the Warren in Moore because that's the biggest. We saw it at the IMAX, the biggest screen in the city, I believe. And it started at 7. I don't think I got out of the theater till 10:20.
Wow.
There was it was like 2 hours and 20 minutes, I think. And there was previews about hand. It's ridiculous.
So it was just so it goes wrong on that level too. It makes itself a little too much of
Oh yeah, and it's I could have cut 30 minutes of that of moping and out of
yeah.
that movie easily. Well, if I knew studio whatever.
And so like Doctor Strange is
It's not.
was it wasn't a fast-paced Marvel product a confection. It really is a confection at that point. Movies nowadays. But the one that approaches perfection that I watched recently was about 82 minutes long, and is the old Howard Hawks, the thing from another world. And,
Oh yeah.
And man, that movie never stops in terms of like, it's all about the story. It's all about character. It's, well, I guess something can't be all about both, but it gives you one or the other at every point in it. It gives you character, story, and never stops. And what's funny is you think it's like something that is so full of business, and yet it could almost be like a table read in terms of like what it amounts to. It's shots of people standing together talking, but the camera's always moving. They're always moving with you. It's great. I mean, it stops often, but for a quick sit down and to talk, but it's just such a well crafted little film. You can see why John Carpenter is just crazy about it.
Yeah, I like it. I have it on DVD. I think it's a pretty good movie. I bought recently, or not long ago. Oh, there was a DVD place going out of business, and they had this. I've been looking at forever, and it was like the science fiction box set, and it's got that and Forbidden Planet and the Beast from 20,000 Phantoms or whatever it is. Something else. There's like 4. It's either 6 movies or 4 movies on there.
And, I would be surprised if the thing doesn't have a Criterion version, but maybe it never. Maybe they don't have a good enough.
I've never seen.
Yeah, I don't think I have either. I got to check that.
I mean, every time they had those sales, I'll go look, and to me, I look at it and I go, well, there's a lot of foreign movies I'm not really familiar with. I don't know if I want this, so I end up not buying a lot. Of course, last Criterion thing, I bought the Bruce Lee box set. I really want, but I haven't pulled the trigger on the Godzilla box set.
Oh yeah, that's a big old group of them, but it's got the good early ones. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All of them. You know that anyway. Or Godzilla versus Kong was a pretty decent little flick.
Oh yeah.
Did you see it?
When the week or so that we had HBO Max here, whatever their online thing is called, I watched half of it.
Oh, you never finished it up?
No, I started it late. I didn't get it done, and then I never got back to it. My bad.
That was fun. I just did Batman versus Venom down here in the corner.
Oh yeah.
I wrote a couple of notes when I was observing, because one of the things, issue 7, of course, it has a cover. It's Von Bode, and I wrote a couple of notes about the what's and also I was looking at those Wits Ends that features a couple of Frazetta strips,
Oh yeah.
and those Frazetta strips have this in common with the Von Bode. It's that composition is everything in a Frazetta strip and a Von Bode strip. It's like a combination of like simplicity of like, okay, here's a mid shot of somebody with a full shot of somebody in the background, say, or it's a clash of a couple of full shots. It's it reduces itself to just the essential that you'd want in the story. And that may seem simple, that anybody could do it, but no, I think everybody racks their brain on an inventory to stick in an image of things, from the script or whatever. And then they insert those things without thinking of like, is this really, you might even get it from the writer that they want to see all the stuff that they're seeing in it. But, if you were to glean what you ought to get out of it, as an image, you'd reduce it. You'd just continue to reduce it. Is
Yeah.
Warren still open? The Warren is still open.
Yeah. Yes, I went the one in Moore, Oklahoma. I don't know where Wim lives. I assume it's Wim lives here. I know there's a couple Warrens though, but the one in Oklahoma or the one in Moore is still open. I went there last night to see James Bond.
Moore. Okay.
Moore, yes.
You went all the way to Moore to watch a movie. It'd be like me coming
No,
all the way over to your neighborhood to watch a movie.
no. What I did is no. First off, it's worse than that. So, but I started. I left work. I left from work and went straight over there. My work is not that far, but
No.
it took a while to get home.
Oh heck no! You're practically in Moore for.
Yeah, I'm in Del City, so
That's got a
but
that little township there's got a fairly high crime rate, doesn't it?
which one? Del City?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we've had my work. We've had a guy I know got his car stolen right out of the parking lot.
God.
Which I mean but I mean my building. There's people in and out all the time. You know, and we had a rash of catalytic what catalytic
Oh
converters.
yeah. Just going up to take whatever's good in that, whatever rare earths they're after in those. Yeah.
The That's one thing that makes me nervous about getting my dad's truck is I won't have room in my garage for it, so I'll have to set out in my driveway.
Wim blames Tinker for the crime. I guess there could be something to that, huh? All the
Uh,
all the transitional
Del's
people.
always they're well or their children, you
Yeah,
know.
their children more likely.
But yeah, I don't know what the well. So there is like a Section 8 housing, and there's some not far from my work, and that unfortunately that kind of thing always contributes
Oh
a little
yeah,
bit
yeah.
because
There's no you can be politically correct about it, but it contributes. It's a matter of someone that's idled and
well,
as hungry as any other person is on earth and looking around for opportunity.
and so there's a neighborhood, there's a street not far from my house. And if Wim lives in the metro, Wim may be familiar with the apartments on Lyrewood Avenue, and they're the it's it's I don't want to say it's like the best part down, but it's a fairly nice area. But there's just a street that has older apartments, and they are Section 8. They're kind of a double whammy because they're Section 8, and they're all multi-bedroom for whatever reason. That whole area there, I think it was built during the oil boom. They were all all multi-bedroom, and so what you have is unfortunately that combination. You have a lot of single moms, and so you see a lot of kids lingering around that library by my house. When I go to it, before COVID at least. Now it's kind of gotten a little bit different after COVID, but before COVID, there'd be kids just hanging out, causing you go in there and they'd be cutting up or smoking something in the library. And it's because their parents would tell them to go to the library till they got home from work. I'd go by there on the way home from work, and it'd be like, holy cow, man. And it's not. I mean, it's just a sad fact that when you get kids who their parents aren't able to be around them, either they come from a single parent home that has to work, or even both parents work and they have, because of whatever reason, maybe they're working multiple jobs or extra hours, or they're just stressed out from stress that they aren't able to keep a tight rein on their kids. You tend to have problems. My neighborhood, we have rental houses, or there's duplexes at the end of my street, and I'll read online. Oh yeah, there was something. Kids in my neighborhood will roam up and down and check car doors, looking for something they can get into, looking for targets.
Yeah. Just like I always thought of it as just like locusts.
Yeah.
Basically, they're descending on the stuff, and then when they pick up and take flight, it's all just denuded. Everything that's worth picking up has been picked up.
If you let them in if you leave that window open a crack, they're going to come in and eat all your food.
Just think about what's being done on the southern border right now. I think whenever I hear a number, I think of now imagine if that was an actual mini crime wave per number. If you let those people in and they have no prospects of doing anything but voting Democrat, that's the only reason you let them in. You've just unleashed a whole bunch of crime waves on your citizenry. It's maddening.
I think you have to go back to a couple things. It's hypocritical to say all Americans must be vaccinated and masked, and then go, but let a bunch of people in and do no sort of checking on them. Yeah. Okay, that's one thing. During a pandemic, it's irresponsible, and it's irresponsible anyway, because typically,
it's like Tucker says, we're being replaced, basically.
Well,
Tucker.
But the problem is, it's like people that come to America and can't speak English.
Mm-hmm.
They will be ostracized. They can never be mainstreamed in the society for the most part, because they can't communicate, and so they can't get a job, or they can't. Now people make accommodations for them, and I work with several Mexicans who speak the guy that works in housekeeping at work, super nice guy, super hard worker, great guy, but he speaks broken English, so he will always struggle because he has trouble communicating.
I'm about to start learning Spanish. I've taken several steps. I'm going to start giving myself the Pomodoro method for learning Spanish.
The Pomodoro? What do you eat it?
Well, you go 20 minutes intensely and then give yourself a 10-minute break. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to start doing that for about an hour a day.
Oh, gotcha.
Which is only, 2 sessions. But I've translated one of my short stories from my book, Free Cat and 31 Other Odd Tales. And, I translated it using Google Translate, and I also had a spoken word of it done and recorded that. So I'll listen, translate, play around. I also, I don't know why all of a sudden. Well, maybe it's because I'm so surrounded at this point. I might as well know what they're saying about me. If I overhear anything.
My wife and I, my cousin doesn't live very far from you. She's a little north of you, and she's at 28th and Western. And what's your cross street? What's the number street are you on? Are you on?
I'm more like at May. Yeah, so you're right. She's west, and you say she's north. Okay.
Yeah, and but I mean, we go to her because we go. For anybody that doesn't know, I think I've talked about this, but she doesn't drive, so we go buy groceries for her. She's on disability, and we go to the grocery store, and it is. I mean, it's all us and Hispanics of some sort, I believe. Or we go she doesn't have a group. We would for a while we were taking her clothes to the laundromat, and I would go, and I mean I'd be the only white guy in the laundromat.
Oh yeah. That's the reason I started to shop when I take my walk. It's like, I just don't like shopping around here.
Well, it doesn't bother me one bit, and I've never had, and I mean, me,
Sure.
I'll talk to anybody, and like I said, it's never been an issue, but it is. I mean, we'll drive down the street by her on the way to the grocery store, and there are, there's a Mexican grocery store, and there's like places that sell clothes, and they'll have speakers playing Mexican music, and a lot of the signs are in Spanish, and I mean, yeah. So if I lived near there, I would definitely be interested, or even in your neighborhood, I would be interested in learning Spanish.
Yeah,
like you say, just to kind of stay on top of things.
Oh, I've always, and it's funny. I started taxing myself with, I actually, in junior high, once you were introduced to it, you'd be surprised. That's the early learning. And a lot of it stuck because I was running through some of my vocabulary. It's like, you know what? I've already got a small poquito vocabulary. Yeah, that probably mangled the pronunciation just then, but I've picked up a few words.
Yeah, I imagine living in San
sure.
Diego, you probably.
I can't
San
think
Diego.
of how. I want this one to really rock. I want to have the Batman versus Lockjaw, or maybe playing with Lockjaw. Maybe that's it. Yeah, playing with Lockjaw.
How about he's behind Lockjaw, and Lockjaw's running off with the batarang.
Ah, there you go.
Like a dog running away with the bug.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, well, I have a good idea once in a while. Anyway, well, hey, dude, I need to go.
We started late. And, hey, thanks to Natasha International and Wim for keeping us company. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for watching. I'm sorry I was late. I had to stay an hour late to work, so I got home at about 10 after 7. But anyway.
Oh, we've been at it. I just now noticed it must be after 8 or whatever. It's we've been at it 53 minutes. Okay. We're ending broadcast. Did you want to say anything else, Scott?
Nope. Thanks for checking out the show.
Yeah. We've had a couple comments from James, Punk Hero. Appreciate those.
Oh yeah, cool.
He's given me a couple of reading recommendations. He tossed out the idea that the correspondence between H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard. And then I checked it out, and it's 3 volumes,
Yeah.
All right, anyway, okay, ending broadcast.